Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a young and successful entrepreneur in the field of wellness from Gurgaon, India, Akshi Khandelwal. Akshi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you very much for inviting me here. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Akshi is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Butterfly Ayurveda. She's also the founder, director, and CEO of Café Swasthya. So, Akshi, before we come to Butterfly Ayurveda and Café Swasthya, a few questions for you. What triggered your decision to modernize Ayurveda rather than build a conventional wellness brand?
Right. I think it came from a very personal space
Mm,
because my background involves a lot of dance training, martial arts training, and yoga training.
mm,
That helped me align with Ayurveda and Ayurvedic principles in a very practical and a very hands-on manner. And I
mm,
realized that this wisdom is very intuitive
mm.
to understand, and it can be really easily understood by people of India, especially.
Right.
And I felt that for some strange reason, we were not giving Ayurveda the kind of attention it really
Mm.
truly deserved.
Yeah.
And that is why I wanted to stick to the mainstream Ayurvedic understanding and modernize it in a way that people can adapt it into their daily lifestyle.
Very interesting. And when you say Ayurveda should become an integrated lifestyle system rather than a niche category, what does this practically mean?
Again, it talks about, I mean, when I say that it can become a lifestyle integrated system, we are again referring to the foundational concepts or understanding of Ayurveda,
Hmm.
whether we refer to the Panch Mahabhut, the five great elements,
Yeah.
Akash, Vayu, Agni, Prithvi, Jal, or whether we refer to the three dosh theory or understanding, the principles of balancing the three dosh within the
Hmm.
body, Vata,
Hmm.
Pitta, Kapha,
Hmm.
because they are a derivation of or from the Panch Mahabhut. So
Hmm.
Vat, is composed of space and air elements. Pitta is composed of fire and water elements,
Hmm.
and Kapha is composed of water and earth elements.
Hmm.
And
Well
when
said.
you again understand these concepts, you understand that it is not restricted to just food or medicine. It
Hmm.
is restricted to your complete lifestyle.
Hmm.
When you wake up in the morning, or what is the next thing that you do after you waking up, your
Hmm.
choice of clothes, your
Hmm.
choice of work, your choice of travel, or just your daily lifestyle choices and your way of being is highly dependent upon
Hmm.
your Ayurvedic body constitution, which is
Hmm.
composed of these three doshas.
Hmm.
So
Very
that is
interesting.
what we mean by,
Yeah.
lifestyle
Yeah.
integrated system.
Very, very interesting. And how do you personally balance respect for classical Ayurvedic texts with the demands of modern consumer behavior?
Um, Again, our backbone, our company's organization's backbone is R&D.
Hmm.
So we don't do anything without backing it
Hmm.
up with R&D. And
Hmm.
our R&D really, takes into account the Ayurvedic literature, the textbooks that have been written by the great rishis and, whatever is being given in the Ayurveda.
Hmm.
Along with that, we find it is very important in today's time to do the modern science testing, to meet the testing and the quality standard parameters.
Yeah.
So both these things are very important in today's time, that you need to carry the traditional wisdom of Ayurveda, plus you need to, have the quality standards and parameters met
Hmm.
as per today's contemporary times.
Hmm.
So, at a personal level, I still take, the arishtams and the Chavanprash. I mean, all these are,
Yeah.
old, ancient medicines that have been
Hmm.
written in the Ayurveda. So there are multiple such medicines that are available in the market, and they're absolutely superb, and we highly recommend it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even when we talk to doctors, they know that nothing
Hmm.
at the cost of classical treatment. But
Correct.
the problem with classical treatment is in today's time, it becomes a little tough to manage because you need to have a certain kind of diet and you
Mm,
need to have a certain kind of lifestyle. But since we are in this busy world when people are traveling and moving and they may not be able to get that cup of tea or that kind of food where they are living or they
mm,
are traveling to. So then the modern take on Ayurveda, which becomes easy to kind of consume and
mm,
also has a good effect on the body,
mm.
becomes more relevant.
Absolutely. And I'm personally a great believer. I've been diabetic for a long time. And 1.5 years ago, I was introduced to a very senior doctor who makes his own Ayurveda powder.
Yeah.
And my HbA1c is completely under control.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
so
Yeah.
I'm a great believer in this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. So that's
But
great. I'm so
actually,
happy to know this. I'm happy to
no,
learn
no, it
about
works. And there's so many other people I know who are taking this. So, but actually, let's now move to your first brand, which is Butterfly Ayurveda. Tell me about the brand and why this unusual name Butterfly.
it. Yeah. Yes, at the time I was establishing the company on
Mm,
paper,
mm,
I had, gone through my own journey because I was reading a lot of Ayurveda books and then I was developing my team, my R&D team. And what I realized through my research, even the market study, the little bit that I did at
mm,
that point, that the names of different companies within
mm,
this Ayurvedic realm, they were uh, they were so different, and they carried probably, I understand the importance and significance today, but at
mm,
that point, I felt very far from them,
mm.
The names were coming from places where the younger or the youth generation could not
Mm.
relate to them simply
Correct.
because they did not have that understanding.
Mm,
That was one of the reasons I chose something as light as a butterfly. And
mm,
of course, I was very, very inspired by butterfly's journey, how
mm,
it
mm,
transforms from a
mm.
caterpillar into a butterfly, like through that six, seven
Yeah,
stages.
yeah.
So that was definitely the core reason. And the third reason was that one of the most important glands in our body, the thyroid gland,
Mm.
it is butterfly in shape. So I think it's very important that people understand the
How
importance of
interesting.
balancing their thyroid.
How
So
interesting. How interesting. And you mentioned a few minutes back about how your organization is dependent a lot on research. What does research-led Ayurveda really mean to a
right.
consumer?
Yeah, I think so. Number one is referring to the Ayurvedic classical texts, done as a company, from a company's
Yeah.
point of view.
Mm,
Um, that is number one, checking for all the quality parameters of the raw materials
mm,
sourced. And of course, the same applies to the finished good. But most important is the chemical reaction between the different herbs
mm,
that are being combined, or the different ingredients, whether they are
mm,
whole herb form or
mm,
extract base. What kind of reaction takes place? And that is the job of a pharmacologist.
mm.
So pharmacologist plays a very important role in today's time because we are developing new, we are doing
Yeah.
research, we are doing research and development.
Mm,
What is given in Ayurveda is definitely verified,
mm,
but what we are doing, we are developing new medicines
mm.
with the use of that wisdom.
Yeah.
So it's very important that the pharmacologist is, doing his job really well to understand that there is no strange reaction taking place between the herbs or the ingredients combined to
Mm,
develop the formulation that needs to be developed.
mm.
That is from the R&D point of view. From the marketing point of view, it is very important to, again, study and understand the market needs and conditions,
Yeah.
and to make sure that you're being very transparent with the
Mm,
communication.
mm.
All said and done, again, it comes back to the same thing because according to Ayurveda, every individual is unique, and
Mm,
everybody has their own unique body constitution,
mm,
which we get from our parents essentially. So what happens is that it's not necessary that if this medicine is working really well for me, it is going to work really well for the other person.
mm, mm.
So what happens is that becomes the job of an Ayurveda doctor or a
Right.
practitioner. In the olden times, even today, people do nari parikshan to,
Mm,
to kind of check what is the requirement of that particular individual. And on the basis of that, medicines are given.
mm.
So I think Ayurveda just by itself is a very research-oriented study
Yeah.
subject.
Mm.
And it just goes on and on. It can
Yeah.
never really become ancient or old. It's
Absolutely.
just very
Absolutely.
relevant to every time. Yeah,
Mm, mm.
yeah.
But then tell me, based on all the work you're doing with so many consumers, What, in your view, are some of the common misconceptions consumers have about Ayurveda today? And I know in the past there used to be this whole talk about too much lead in it and couldn't be exported, but I know it's changed a lot now.
So quality definitely was an issue at one point in time,
Mm,
but we also need to understand that in Ayurveda there is a lot of use of, bhasans,
mm,
of different metals, that there's a technique to kind of develop it because they have an impact on the body. I mean, in olden times, we used to cook food in iron ki kadhai.
yeah.
There was a reason, and nobody had iron ka deficiency. Nobody
Mm,
was deficient in iron. There was a reason.
mm, mm,
So, quality was maybe erstwhile an issue, but nowadays there are qualitative products available in
correct.
the market.
Yeah.
Companies are becoming aware that customer is very much aware.
Mm,
Having said that, there are certain misunderstandings about, what you mentioned, the
mm,
metal found,
mm,
or
mm,
so that I think that needs to be communicated to people, how that can benefit. For example, Sona Chandi Chyawanprash.
mm,
There's importance of the Sona and Chandi in it.
mm,
So that is one. Third is, I think, lack of education. Again, poor
mm.
choices made by the customer. They
Right.
feel that simply because it is herbal, they can pick it up and they can
Mm,
consume it.
yeah.
So they underestimate the power of herbs, which is
Mm,
very wrong because herbs can also impact negatively. In
mm,
fact, they are very, very powerful. So if
correct.
you're unnecessarily just taking an herb just for because
Mm,
it's herbal, it may
mm,
have a negative impact. Thirdly, uh, it is considered that Ayurveda is a slow or a gradual process. Yes, it is a gradual process, but it is not symptomatic. It
mm,
doesn't only treat the symptoms, it treats the root cause of the problem.
mm,
So when you feel better in a week or 2 weeks' time, just a little better, you suddenly realize something has shifted,
mm.
something drastic has shifted inside you.
Yeah.
So these are the issues I
Very
would say
interesting.
that are
Very
there.
interesting. And actually, in a market flooded with wellness claims, how do you build scientific credibility and consumer trust for Butterfly?
Yes. So like I erstwhile also mentioned that R&D is the backbone, and we believe in, making sure that we test all our raw materials. We get the COA for them before we put them into use, and the
Mm,
testing of the finished goods. So this testing and the quality parameters have to be met. I
yeah.
think at a more like at the core level, the manufacturing or the infrastructure
Mm,
has to be taken care of.
mm,
I have personally visited multiple units and I have been appalled. And I used to feel sad that what is happening,
mm,
why aren't there proper manufacturing units? Even though a lot of them are there now and
mm,
they were there erstwhile. But I think to address the needs of the modern science standards in terms of
mm,
the quality standards and to build customers' loyalty and trustworthiness towards us, it's very important that we establish our manufacturing capabilities well with
mm,
whatever we have, because there are
mm,
ways to do it in the most clean and hygienic way
mm.
within different budget sets.
Yeah.
So that is most important, and we have transparent and we do the testings that are required.
Mm,
The sourcing of raw material has to be
mm.
very, very important
Right.
because sometimes this it's the poor raw materials is sourced, and that will have a very different impact versus when the raw material is freshly procured and
Mm,
it is put into good use. So I think the good manufacturing practices play a very, very important role
mm. Great
with
response.
transparent communication
Yeah.
done through marketing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Great response. One more question relating to butterfly, and then we'll move to Cafe Swasthya. How is Ayurveda or butterfly Ayurveda uniquely positioned when you compare it to Western functional nutrition models?
Yeah, yeah. So it's very unique because when we talk about the Western functional nutritional models, one is that the nutrition by itself it's a Western understanding of the body and
Mm,
to nourish the body, which is good, which is I think it's great. It works really well.
mm,
Uh, but again, when we talk about Ayurveda or we talk about butterfly Ayurveda products also,
mm,
we take into account the core Ayurvedic principles. So all of our products are designed to help balance the three dosh. So we understand, we acknowledge the fact that there are different prakritis present within different consumer sets that we have, and different products could be useful to each person differently. Plus, it changes the Vat Pitta Kapha, the three dosh balance that I was talking about. It changes with seasons. It changes with the different symptoms that you see in a person. So a cold or a cough could be related to a cough imbalance. A diarrhea or an ulcer is related to a pith imbalance. A nervous system issue is related to a Vata imbalance. So when you start treating these things in your day-to-day lifestyle, just by consuming something like a cup of tea that helps balance Vata dosh, it helps you to take care of many more things than just the air and the gas issues. It helps you sleep better. It improves your nervous system functioning. It improves your memory
Yeah.
capabilities.
Yeah.
So when you take a tea which helps balance your kapha dosh, you're actually improving your overall immunity. You're clearing out phlegm formation. You're clearing out any kind of drowsiness or laziness, water retention within the body. So our products are designed to help balance the different three dosh, highly based on the fundamental principles of Ayurveda. And of course, the medicines and the supplements are more directed towards lifestyle related ailments, just to
Yeah.
make it easier for people to pick and choose.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Let's now move to your other brand, which is Café Swasth. On the one side, you've got products. On the other side, you've got a service or a cafe. What was the insight that led you to move from products to an experiential cafe? And was this always a part of a long-term roadmap, or did it evolve organically?
Yeah, it was a part. I'll just share a secret with you because I was a hardcore cafe person. And I loved coffee shops. I loved the culture of coffee shops when I was in college and, in my university. But I faced major health issues post that. I faced major health issues with respect to my digestive system because of daily consumption of coffee and the bakery items available there. And I got them treated through Ayurvedic treatment only, classical Ayurvedic treatment over a period of time. And I'm back. Like I was fine within a span of 6 months to 1 year. But so that was definitely, a turning point for me because I suddenly realized that because of my daily consumption of just a cup of coffee and grab a bite, whatever, that daily consumption kind of led to something much bigger. And I think a lot of people face this issue, but people don't talk about it. People just live with acidity or people just live with a
Yeah.
digestive problem thinking that it is normal. ये होता रहता है. But I want to tell people, no, you can live a very, very healthful and happy, fresh life, and you can eat whatever you want to.
Right.
So that had triggered at a very early stage, even when I was doing butterfly Ayurveda. And that is what led us to get into the bakery side of things. We got into the cookie line of products and then into cakes. And when we received a good response on that, it was then that I decided that now it's time to put together a cafe and to make people experience Ayurveda. So the communication within the cafe is again about balancing the three dosh, the menu items on that we are offering. Again, help in balancing the three dosh within the body. Everything backed by
Very
RBD.
interesting. And do you have a cafe in Gurgaon?
We have a cafe in Sector 49,
Okay.
Gurugram, Aerocity Square. First cafe outlet opened in January 16th, 2025. And we have a second one in Kailash Colony.
Okay. Wonderful. I must go and check it out.
Yeah.
My next question, Akshi, is what behavioral shifts have you observed? Well, wellness is presented in a cafe experience rather than a clinic-like setup.
I think the number one, you're talking about customers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the number one I see is joy. There is a joy. There's an internal joy I see in people to experience just the cafe culture and feel free when they enter the space, and they're like, whatever I'm going to eat or drink here, it is going to be healthy for me.
Mm,
So that joy is there, which I really value. And second is that within that kind of setup, people are willing to
mm,
read more, to
mm.
understand more. You know how the marketing materials that we have
Yeah.
created for them, people want to know. So that is there.
Mm,
Plus, I think they also are less threatened by heavy concepts or what they may be going through. Whatever issue they feel that it's possible to kind of to correct it, to make it better.
mm,
Uh, let's start with eating right.
mm,
So I think that's a massive shift I have experienced, in terms of the consumer behavior. And we also see that from food, people are willing to, then go on to picking up things for home and
mm.
then sharing it with their extended family members that I'll take this for my
Yeah.
mother or I'll take
Yeah.
this for my grandfather. So
Mm,
I think that transfer is that trickle down is really good. Yeah.
mm. Very interesting. But tell me, do customers come for the food first or the philosophy first?
Both. It's
Both.
very interesting. Both. We've been observing this
Mm,
and we realize it's a blend of both.
mm,
We have people coming from very, very far away, just when the first outlet was open,
mm,
to experience the philosophy, but also to experience the food.
mm,
And we were very happy with that. So people come for both.
mm. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I have time for two more questions for you.
Yes.
How do you design a menu that balances dosha principles with modern taste expectations?
Right. So like I said, I mean, so the Indian kitchen is definitely like this the seat. It's just the seat of Ayurveda. Like
Mm,
everything in the Indian kitchen is very much Ayurvedic. So
mm,
that becomes our foundation. However, that doesn't mean when we make pasta we use Indian spices.
mm,
No,
mm.
it's just that the very principle of Vat Pitta Kapha, when it goes into this food philosophy, when we develop the recipes,
Mm,
we know which vegetables suit,
mm.
what season or what help balance which dosh or
Yeah.
which herbs or spices will have what kind of effect. So
Mm,
that is the way we develop the recipes.
mm,
And that is the work that is done by our team, our
mm,
R&D and the cafe team together.
mm,
So that is how we design. We have no intention to not give you a cake when we are talking about a cake.
mm.
It is going to be that yummy
Yeah.
bite that you want
Yeah.
because cake
Yeah.
has to be a cake. It can't be like taste like bread or something.
Mm,
So
mm,
you do feel that you're enjoying a cake, but we replace the attas with ragi or a multigrain flour, or we use natural fats. We don't
mm,
use any refined oils or any palm oil or nothing unnatural. So we use
mm,
butter or coconut oil, olive oil. Then we
mm,
use 100% natural sugars.
mm,
We go back to using khan, bhura,
mm,
or brown sugar, or even dates or
mm,
coconut palm sugar.
mm, mm,
Yeah, so that helps us develop a variety of bakery items along with the different menu items that we have for
mm.
meals. These include soups, salads, wraps, sandwiches, plus thalis. So we've got Indian classics as well.
Wow.
Because we feel that people think that for some strange reason, kadhai paneer is too heavy and they can't eat
Mm,
it.
mm,
It's not good for health. But no, that's not the way. You can
mm,
you can have your two parathas with kadhai paneer and have a healthy meal. So
mm,
it really depends on how you're designing and the ingredients that we are using.
mm.
And that is what we have focused on, and we've kept in mind, the wisdom and
Mm.
the R&D behind each and every ingredient
How
that we.
fascinating. How fascinating. And my last question for you, Akshi, as you look ahead, where do you see both your brands, Butterfly Ayurveda and Café Swasthya, in the next few years?
Yeah, so I think so. The good thing is that we are offering a retail section within Cafe Swast of Butterfly Veda
Mm,
products. And I see that with the growing awareness about Ayurveda, picking up Ayurvedic products from the shelf would also increase. I definitely see Café Swas growing into a chain of outlets. Is what we envision for the future. I want to cater to the masses. I don't want Café Swas or Butterfly Ayurveda, for that matter, to be restricted to a certain section of the consumer groups or a certain section of the society. I want to cater to the masses, and that's how we'll be designing the upcoming models of Café Swasth and placing Butterfly Ayurveda products strategically. Yeah.
Very interesting. And on that note, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has been. I mean, I personally am a believer in Ayurveda, but I didn't realize how beautifully you have blended the concepts of Ayurveda into modern uh, acceptance of all the young people. And then you further moved on into a cafe where you're giving, as you say, yummy food, but which is well balanced and thought through carefully for every consumer's health. Thank you, Akshi, for speaking to me, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. It was a pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.